Hey guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. Today's video is all about protecting your investment and the things that you can do to influence the health of your car. Like everything in life, nothing's perfect, especially this car, but on the whole, it's a good one. And if you're like me, you've thrown the warranty renewal paperwork in the bin, then this is a video for you. Stay tuned and we'll go through the things that you can do to keep your car running right. The car is clean, let's get started. No prizes for originality, but I'm going to start with the condenser grills. Obviously a risk area on any Porsche, susceptible to stone damage and debris getting in there and rendering your AC useless either by corroding the pipework or puncturing a hole in your condenser. One on either side obviously. So what I did to resolve that was I cut a template, bought some mesh and put it in behind the slats here. You can buy the items from Zone Sport, but I think this is a little bit more discreet and it does exactly the same job at a much lower price. You can remove these, you unclip at the bottom and then pull away. Mine have been out today already, so they're a bit easier. Yours might be tighter, but that is literally all you have to do. And you can fold the mesh back in here and then use these tie wraps to secure them in place. And I've done this a few years ago and it still looks good, no chipping or anything like that, so I really recommend you do the same. Also important to run that fan at full speed once in a while, stop it sticking up. If the car's laid up for any period of time, make sure you run it every month or so, otherwise they can stick. If they do, you can actually repair them by going in through the front of the car, lifting up the cover and spinning the fan. Open up the front lid, take off the plastic cover. This piece unclips, which is the area for the pollen filter. Get a stick or a rod or something, don't put your fingers in there. And spin the fan in there, and that'll free it up. And then just make sure to use the fan on full every now and again, and you should be fine. There are drains on either side of the soft top, and I've seen this all too often that they become clogged. And when that happens, water makes its way down below and under the seats and fries the modules there. If that happens, you can be looking at a 4-figure bill from your OPC. Not pretty. So let's talk through what you can do to prevent that from happening, and if you do find that they're clogged, what you can do to fix it. So to access the drain, I put the roof in this position, so almost fully open, just so that flaps up and you can get access. There's a little tube there, you move that, and it gives you access to the drain hole. Quite hard. There's the drain hole, and what you need to do is poke something down there and make sure it's clear. You can test it by pouring some water down. If it comes out the bottom of the car, both the back and the front, you're all good. If not, you've got a blockage. Right. If you do have a blockage, I'd suggest you get it cleared out as soon as you can. An airline would be my recommendation to clear it if it does become full, to try and get it to come out the bottom. Keep on top of this and make sure these drains are clear if your car is parked outside often. Calipers look great, but keeping them clean is a challenge, and they are susceptible to moisture, especially around the bleed nipples. If that happens, they can seize and actually snap when they go and try to bleed your brakes. You don't want that. It's going to cost an absolute fortune because they're going to recommend that you replace the caliper. So let's look at how you can avoid that. There are two bleed nipples, an inner and an outer. I'm not sure I'd like an inner nipple, but each to their own. They have a seal, a rubber seal on them, and I think these deform over time. I don't know if it's with the heat or age or just with them coming on and off, but it allows moisture into the threads. Rust can form and they can seize in place, and if you're too rough with them they will snap. There are specialists and experts out there that can repair it for you, but it's a lot of hassle. Far better to prevent it from happening. So what I recommend you do is treat these nipples as a consumable every couple of fluid changes, depending on where you live. If you're in a hot climate you can extend that, but in the UK I would say every couple. And also change the rubber parts if you can as well to stop them being deformed. So something to watch out for. I wouldn't say it's common, but you don't want it to happen to you. Moving to the back of the car, if you have PSE it sounds great, but as I've covered in a previous video, the valves have been known to seize. It's important that you get fluid in there, keep them lubricated. It's also a good idea to drive sometimes with the exhaust actually off. It sounds alien, I don't do it often, but you should actually do it because they're actually sitting in the open position when the engine's off. That's their normal position. So it's a nice change for them to actually, when the car's being driven, for the exhaust to be closed. The other issue concerns where the exhaust joins on either side. The bolts that they've used in there are actually made of chocolate, as I found. Mine lasted 25,000 miles and that's just not acceptable. You've got this on either side of the car and you can get in there from the rear wheel well. It's definitely worth checking up on these and making sure that they're not too corroded. What you need to do is either change them as a consumable. I'd recommend every 4 years. You should be getting them checked out, and if you get an advisory on these, get them fixed. I didn't, and I was out driving up in the mountains, and of course they failed. I was supposed to be away for a whole weekend. And I ended up having to cut my trip short, so that was pretty disappointing, and I really don't want that to happen to you. In terms of protection, these cars suffer from stone chips right along the side. It's not just the front of the car. One solution would be to PPF this full panel. When I was looking at some cars I noticed that there were effects here and also at the back where it sort of curves out. The front's obviously kicking up stones and pushing them back. I'm not a huge fan of PPF because once you do get a few chips on it, it looks a bit messy, and then by the time you've taken it off and reapplied it, it costs as much as it would have done to paint it anyway. But a good solution when the car is new. What I've done instead is I've pre-cut small pieces and put them on the affected areas. I took pictures of some of the cars that I was looking at to so I knew where they were going to be impacted. There's actually a pre-cut piece you can buy in the rear corner there. I'll give you a link to that, hopefully the seller still has them. So I've applied a pre-cut piece of PPF here. I got it online. Hopefully the guy still sells them. I'll put a link up. And then I pre-cut my own here. These are the worst areas, just where it curves out. But this is a must-have, and it still looks fairly neat after a few years. If I hadn't have had that on, I would have been peppered with chips. The other part is behind the wheel. It literally erodes your bumper all the way down here. Underneath here is literally white, and parts of the bumper are disappearing. Here was my solution. I didn't want to paint it all the time, and PPF's not enough for it. It will just cut through that. I bought this this tube, and it sort of slots into the groove behind your bumper. And you can see here, just use some sticky stuff to put it on. And it does protect it. This, I can replace this a lot easier than I can parts of the bumper. So that was my solution. I think you can apply this on the front as well. I'm going to investigate that, but I recommend you do the same. Let me show you underneath, give you an idea how bad this problem is. So I was a little bit late. I do have some PPF there as well, but it wasn't doing anything. Look under the bumper. It's actually eroding it away. And I was a little late. I think actually in hindsight I could have gone for a thicker piece that covered further over, but at least I'm protecting most of the damage now, and I can just touch that up if needed. No one really sees it, but it's annoying because I know it's there. I also recommend a battery charger. I've got a C-Tech one. Porsche will sell you a Porsche branded C-Tech one for double the price, but this one's really good. What I do is I plug it into the center console, and when I lock the car it runs. I wouldn't use any of the others because they seem to go off after a while, but this one stays live all the time, so it's really good. It's a good idea because these cars aren't always used so often. They also have start stop, and it takes its toll on the battery. A good idea to invest in one, otherwise you're looking at quite a big bill from Porsche for a new battery. You have to get an OEM one and they have to code it for you, so it's quite expensive, so it's better just to make sure your existing battery works for as long as possible. That's the end of the video. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please help us get to 1,000 subscribers and hit that button. Also hit the like button, it's really useful for us. In the next video, I want to tell you about this X73 rear anti-roll bar that I bought. I'm intending to fit it soon. Hopefully it's going to improve turning and make that rear end a little bit more lively. So stay tuned for that.